Welcome to the Training Stimulus podcast. In today's episode, we're joined by Mr. Felix Adamson-Walter. Felix is an osteopath turned online coach who runs a hybrid service where he helps people from pain to performance. In the episode, we talk about his challenges and struggles as an osteopath, how he's managed to set up his own business, earning money online as well as at the treatment table, and offering a blend of services to get the best results for his clients. Stay tuned until the end as we get into some deep topics talking about more philosophical stuff in life, including devotion and how to get the most out of your time and energy from an education and career perspective. I really enjoyed this chat. I hope you guys do too. So that's enough from me. Let's get into it. Felix, how you doing, mate?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Ash.
My pleasure. Thank you for squeezing into your schedule. I know you're up at a super early hour this morning.
Yeah, very early. The Aussies like to train nice and early with the first class starting at 5 a.m. So I was up there at 4:45, getting ready to coach the morning classes. So nice and early, but we're ready to go.
Very good. What was on the menu today? What was the class?
I was doing the strength side of it. It's sort of divided into strength and then more metcon. And it was deadlifts, hip thrusts, and sort of leg accessories, basically. So it's a cool class.
Good way to start a Friday.
Sure.
And I think it would be really useful to get a quick bit of context. You are an osteopath and a coach.
Yeah.
Give me your spiel and who you are and what you do.
Yeah, of course. So I'm an osteopath and have moved over the last sort of a year or two into more the coaching space as well as my osteopathy. So I do a few days a week in an osteopathy clinic, and then I do a few days a week or gym and online helping people return from injury. So sort of working with them from a more of a rehab movement mechanics perspective. And then I do some functional fitness coaching alongside that as well, just to sort of change things up a little bit.
Beautiful. And How did you get into this space? Was there a moment when you were growing up where you thought, this is what I want to do when I'm an older adult?
Yeah. It's had a bit of a natural evolution. When I left school, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I knew I'd like to do something working with people. I was always interested in sports science and that side of things. And I was doing the beach lifeguarding in Brighton at the time. And I remember I had this elbow injury building, and then one day it just got way worse when I was at work getting set up. And I literally remember picking up this clipboard and just having the most intense shooting pain down my arm through just deep in my elbow, then going down to my hand. And I had to go home. Then I was off work sick, couldn't train. And I saw different people with not too much luck. And I think it's a similar experience that a lot of people have in this industry, is that you get help from someone and that help sort of inspires you in that moment. So I got referred to an osteopath. I left the appointment pretty much with no pain and in awe, I guess, of the ability to be able to reduce the pain that quickly. I think I had medial and lateral epicondylitis and it was compressing a nerve. And I left with a clarity knowing that, I was very impressed that I had no pain, and that was a big relief. But I also just knew, I thought, if I could do that one day in my career, that would be a pretty satisfying job to have. So I researched it, looked into different osteopathy courses, and then signed up for a year and a half later, I think. So then I went and lived in Australia for a year, traveled around, picked blueberries, raspberries, worked in the outback, just random jobs. Before then going back to Swansea to study. From a training perspective, I've always trained and been in sports, always trained in the gym from 15, just trying to put on some muscle. I remember me and my friends had a few different men's health magazines that had a different fitness program in. We were about 15 and we'd take turns using, I think one was Build a Big Chest, the sort of old school men's fitness magazine. So that's quite funny. And then there was another one that was Build Big Arms. And obviously that was just in the days of watching random YouTube videos, trying to learn how to grow in the gym. And then my training sort of has evolved into some running, swimming, CrossFit, functional fitness, and just sort of whatever takes my fancy at the time. So that was the sort of entry into training and then my osteopathy career as well.
Awesome. Yeah, you made me laugh thinking about the men's health workouts. I think everyone of a certain generation has been through that. And
I know.
if you look at the covers of basically every men's health issue ever, it's bigger chest, bigger arms, and
Yeah,
abs.
I
Every
know.
single cover, like without fail.
I
It
know.
just tells you a lot about the demographic, doesn't it?
And when you're a scrawny 15-year-old, music to your ears, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Um, awesome, mate. And I guess so. You studied in Swansea and qualified, and you're back in Australia now. How did
Yeah.
that come to be?
Yeah, so qualified in Swansea. I then moved to Bristol and I worked across 3 different clinics in Bristol, which was so good. And it was just, I think it was very fortunate that I worked in pretty high volume clinics. So straight away, I'll see quite a few people and thrown in the deep end. You finish every day absolutely knackered because you're thinking so hard and you're presenting yourself. You're trying to do your best to help this person in front of you. And so that was very good in just terms of getting lots of exposure to lots of different types of clients, learning how to manage them. So that really helped me a lot. One of the clinics, I was doing a lot of mentoring with the owner of the clinic. So I do weekly shadowing with him. And that was something I valued so much because when I finished, I guess it's like learning to pass your driving test to a certain degree. Once you finish, that's really time to learn and expand and grow and develop even more. And for me, I hate not knowing. Like I hated just having certain things. I was like, I don't know how to approach this situation or help this person. So I would just I think Tuesday afternoon, go and shadow him, make him a cup of tea, and just try and learn as much as I could from him. And that was really the sort of the 2 years I had across also a few other clinics and worked with lots of great clinicians, osteopaths, multidisciplinary. Learned a lot, and then it got to the stage where I was ready for a change, and me and my girlfriend got offered an opportunity to move to Australia with her job, which was super cool. I'd obviously been here before and always said to her, I think we should go. It's a really cool place. And she got offered the opportunity and I just said, we're going. And so I had a few years there, then moved to Australia just over a year ago. Got a job in a clinic, and then I was working, just across one clinic to start with. And that was sort of towards the time that I probably started speaking to you about the mentorship.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. And what sort of lessons did you learn with your mentor in Bristol? What sort of things were you picking up from that experience?
So the biggest thing for me is that I guess he was 35 years into his clinical career, and his approach was, I want to help you understand your body and help you get better. So he would do some manual therapy, hands-on treatment where it's appropriate, but he would prioritize showing this is how you need to move, this is what you need to do, this is the approach you need to take, whether you need to do more strength training, running, yoga, whatever it might be. And he was very good at zooming out. And I think as a lot of people, when you first study, you have an injury in front of you that might be a long head of biceps tendinopathy. And you're thinking, okay, how can I treat the long head of biceps? What needs to happen? And he would just say, Felix, zoom out. Just zoom out. And that's, I guess, the holistic approach of osteopathy is you're really looking at the whole body and what is contributing towards that long head of biceps being irritated and the tendinopathy. And you'd sort of understand that principle of looking at all the different structures around that. And that really started to make sense to me and something that I really enjoyed using more and more.
Mm.
And so that the empowerment of, I'm going to show you how to fix yourself, not you're going to be reliant on me to fix you. That was something that I just thought that makes so much more sense. Um, so that was sort of really what I took away from him. And the mechanical knowledge was great in terms of just learning how different things moved, how to help people from a perspective of just the interaction in the clinical room. yeah, so that was sort of the biggest takeaway from him.
Brilliant. And did it give you some ideas of how you want your practice to look or how you wanted to evolve your skill set?
For sure. That's for me. I just knew, okay, I really want to be able to help people understand more about their bodies, understand more about what they can do for themselves, and coach them through that process as well. So it's more longer lasting. And it's the sort of thing that if you had some sessions and you learn more about your body and then you move country, you could take that on.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me, osteopathy, it's amazing in terms of can have such good results with more classical osteopathic treatment. But if you move country, you can't really take much away from that osteopathic treatment. And I thought if someone, yeah, that's the sort of perspective I took.
Great.
Yeah.
What did you identify as the things you wanted to learn? Or I'm sort of meandering around the point of like, how did you decide you wanted to get movement mechanics into your arsenal?
So I'd say osteopathy is very good for diagnosing. So very good for understanding tissue structure that's causing pain or dysfunction. It's very good at looking at the body holistically and looking at sort of more active, passive movement. Really good at palpation, feeling through the muscles, joints, getting an understanding of what's causing the pain. But there was something missing. And I thought, when I was looking at someone, a complex shoulder injury of someone that trains a lot and already does a lot for their shoulder, I would often, to be honest, just feel under-equipped. And I really didn't like the feeling of thinking, I don't know how to fully assess this person's shoulder, knee, ankle, hip, low back, whatever it might be. And I knew I wanted to learn more. And I wanted to learn about how the body moved in more depth. Because I guess my friend who's an osteopath here, who's also called Ash, he has a great analogy, which is we'll have a cup. And when that cup starts overflowing, we experience pain or an injury. And that's our capacity of what we can tolerate. And osteopathy and manual treatment is very good at taking water out the cup. So you get the water out the cup, you reduce the pain, you create more space for movement. But what I would say osteopathy doesn't necessarily do is make your cup bigger. And so the movement mechanics and improving someone's movement and their knowledge about how they can move their body better, that's what makes you have a bigger cup. And obviously alongside other things like recovery, stress, and the more holistic factors as well. But the movement mechanics really allows the cup to be bigger. It gives someone more options, more available movement, and less likely for their cup to fill up. So that was the sort of missing link for me. And that's what I thought. I want to be able to help people, I guess, grow their cup bigger.
That's an amazing analogy. I've not heard that one before. And it's a great visualization of, what you can do for somebody. I think I'm still sort of absorbing it now, just thinking about how apt it is, because you do just give somebody, I sometimes talk about it as enlarging their comfort zone of you're not so close to the wire of if your knee tracks better, then there's more degrees of variation before something goes really wrong and some tissues get overstressed or damaged. But yeah, that cup analogy is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So, and what did you see about movement mechanics that made you think this is how I can do that for people?
I would see examples of videos of how to assess someone, how to diagnose, how to look at someone in 3D. So looking at 3 planes of motion and each movement in that plane of motion. And we learn planes of motion from the perspective of facet joint orientation. So that's kind of why we learned it. But we didn't learn about looking at each movement in 3D in all possible movement qualities as well. And for me, that just made total sense. It was a really nice logical way of breaking it down, where you can look at someone's shoulder with their mobility, their stability and motor control, and then apply that to the specific movements and needs that they require. And that just made so much sense from what I'd learned in that few years in Bristol from my mentor, was sort of uncovering that knowledge. And then when I obviously moved over here, I wanted to continue my mentorship, my personal development. I still felt that I needed to understand more. I wanted to grow. And like I said, I didn't like not knowing. I thought, if I can really learn to assess someone in 3D, design specific exercises to improve all of their movement qualities, then I just thought, that's what I need to do. Because in a weird way, it is quite an osteopathic approach to the body, and that's what really resonated with me. And even my colleagues now, it's really interesting. They look at my work from more of a movement perspective, and they say, it makes total sense now. I see that from their osteopathic brain, but they just haven't thought of that approach before. And I think that's been a really interesting part of that sort of link, but also how it just gives, in the same sense that I want to give more people more options of movement, I want more options of being able to assess someone. And if I can really understand how to design that, then that's going to make me into just a way more well-rounded practitioner.
Spot on. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's a really nice way of describing it. And when we think about the framework, the 3 planes of motion, mobility, stability, and motor control, what we're essentially trying to do is create a model for movement. And what's the famous saying about models? That all models are wrong, but some are useful. So you can never capture 100% of what the human body is doing. But what we want to do is give a practical way that we can assess somebody to get enough useful information to move them forwards. And I think, like you said there, osteopathy just seems to lay a great foundation for the movement stuff, because you do look at the body as a system, you have an appreciation for how everything's interconnected, and how the tissues are affected by different movement of other tissues. And once you have that lens through which to assess and evaluate somebody's movement, it all just seems to click really nicely. And you and some of the other physios and osteos we've worked with seem to get incredible results.
And you're absolutely right in terms of, we're never going to be 100% accurate. It's literally impossible. But often someone's injury might just be a couple of a percent change, one direction, that's led to the pain, injury, discomfort that they experience. So if we can get an equivalent change back, and then maybe a little bit more just to get them beyond that point of injury, then that's going to be a really good result. And you don't need to know perfect 100% accurate of their movement, because it's just impossible, but enough that you can really help and give them more options.
That's it. Good enough is good enough. That's what we always say.
That's it.
If you can do what you want to do without pain and making progress, then you're doing well. So I remember we had when you were in Bali, we had a lunch and a coconut on the beach chatting about all this stuff. And it was clear that you'd thought about it in a lot of detail and had a really good perspective on how it all fits together. Would you mind sharing a bit more about your situation? I know you had some reservations before you jumped into the mentorship and started your formal movement mechanics education. Could you take us through that part of your story?
Sure. So when I was in Bristol, I was probably lurking for a few years, I reckon.
Yeah.
And I was busy at work. I was getting mentoring every week, and I didn't have the space for it in that point, but I found it really interesting. And then in that transitional change of moving country, all of a sudden I had a lot more space in my life, because I was starting a new osteopathy clinic. I was going from being pretty much fully booked 5 days a week, very busy, obviously living where in the country I'm from, so seeing friends, doing all sorts of things the whole time, so having not very much space, probably being a bit overstretched, to all of a sudden I've got loads of space. And it was slightly humbling, starting from scratch again. But I really knew, I thought, well, if I'm rebuilding, I may as well rebuild a better version. And Yeah, I thought one of my reservations was obviously the complexity of moving country, finances, not sure it was the right time, when is the right time. And I knew I really wanted to continue developing professionally. And I guess one thing that I was thinking about was I want to learn more about movement in the body, but I didn't want to learn just a framework that's going to be only used on relatively high performing gym based CrossFit athletes and then not be able to do anything else with it. Is then I kind of, that was one of my reservations, and something I was hesitant on, as I didn't know the sort of ins and outs of it. Is like, if a lot of the movements can look quite complicated, and because of that, I was thinking, I don't know if I'll be able to apply that to lots of the people I work with in the osteopathy clinic. I obviously work with all ages, from 8 years old to people in the 90s. So that was one of my reservations. But then, yeah, like you said, after we met and had a nice lunch on the beach in Bali, we spoke about it, and I realized that instead of learning certain exercises that you're going to use to help people with, okay, here are these exercises you're going to use for hip pain, say, it's actually just learning your own framework of how to assess someone's movement and how to scale that fully forwards or back. So it's this methodology that you can apply to anyone. And when I really understood that, well, I say when I really understood that, I knew that, but I didn't really understand it until I did the mentorship myself, and I realized, you're really learning a framework that you have to learn and understand how you can apply with your clients, patients, people in the osteopathy clinic, people in the gym.
Mhm.
And when I cleared that up and knew that it would better all of my practice, that's when I knew it was definitely something that I would like to do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I chat to a lot of people about, because I think they've seen that we've worked with a lot of high level athletes, and they think that it's some sort of special methodology that only applies to the super fit and
Mm.
super strong. But it's a hard thing to convey that we learn things on a principle basis. So we're learning the rules which can be applied to anyone and any situation. And like you say, you dial it up or you dial it down as appropriate for the person in front of you. I think it's obviously maybe a bit more attention grabbing and cooler to see somebody at the CrossFit Games than
Yeah,
a grandma who's just restoring some basic day to day function.
yeah,
But the human body responds to stimuli in the same way, whether you're super fit or not. So it's cool that that came through your learning process. And yeah, I think we had a chat recently, and you told me a bit more about your situation and how you made quite a bold move, essentially, to invest in your education, which I had no idea
mm.
the extent to which you had kind of put your trust in me and the training
Yeah,
stimulus. And I have so much respect for that. Would you mind sharing that side of the story as well?
yeah, of course. Yeah, so after working in Bristol for a few years, obviously I made the big move here. I had, in between Bristol and here, I travelled for about 6, 7 weeks on my own on the way over here. So I went around Sri Lanka, a few different Indonesian islands, had a great time, and then I got here. By the time I'd bought a car, found somewhere to live after being in 6 different Airbnbs for weeks on end, and then started work, like I said, really starting from the bottom again, probably realistically earning a third of what I was back in the UK at the beginning. I I knew I was at this stage where I was like, I really want to continue learning, but I actually have no money. And I took a loan to pay the down payment on the mentorship, and then just thought, I've just got to earn enough each month to get by, pay for the little mentorship payment, and build from there. So that's, yeah, it's pretty, I kind of went all in, really. Um, but again, I knew that what the best investment that I could ever make in that moment in time is in the development of my professional skills. And if I can create more opportunities for myself with that, even taking a loan, using my last little bit of money, then it would, I was hoping it would pay off in the long run, which it absolutely has done. I think it probably paid off before I'd actually finished the mentorship, which was reassuring in terms of, I think after I finished learning to assess the whole body, I started getting some clients coming in, and then it developed from there whilst I was going through that sort of second half of the mentorship.
Yeah, it's amazing. And like I said, so much respect for the way you've backed yourself and just, gone all in to, invest in your skill set. And I think when you think about leveling up your business, improving the service that you're able to offer is one of those things that, you can invest in new software, you can invest in new equipment, but investing in the skill set which enables the service that you're able to offer your clients is the ultimate product. And yeah, I think I'm just really pleased and proud to see what you did with the knowledge, because it really is a shining example of what's possible if you do really commit to it and go all in with it. Just seeing the results you were getting for people, like you said, during the mentorship, before you'd even gone through all the material, you're just putting everything into play, putting full effort into all the assignments. And like I remember you getting, I think there's a runner who had knee pain, and amazing transformation with her. When you're like halfway through the mentorship. So
I know that was really, really cool to see that. So this is obviously, as an osteopath working in Australia, I can't use any testimonial with the APRA guidelines, which is what it is. But from a movement perspective, working someone actually online coaching, so someone that was in the UK, they came to me because they hadn't been able to run for 5 years, couldn't run more than 1-2 kilometers before their knee just blew up. And they got in contact with me, and I said, let's go for it. So we took them through a movement mechanics assessment online, did a program, and within 3 months they were running 10K, and now they're basically the most of the way through a marathon plan and have gone over well over half marathon. So that was really cool to see, and particularly when someone hasn't been able to do something for so long and actually just doesn't even believe that it's a possibility that they could ever run again, just almost written it off, I can't do exercise, and they're in their 20s, which is obviously not the case. But if you don't understand how you can get yourself better, then and if you've had the pain for 5 years, you can quite easily believe that that's just your reality now, and that's just something you're going to face for the next 10-15 years, the rest of your life, really.
Exactly. I think that those are the ones that get me really jazzed up, just thinking how she clearly liked running, wanted to run, but didn't feel like she had that option. And now you've given it to her and she's training for a marathon. So the change to her life and the quality of her life because of what you were doing is huge. And I think, so many, pretty much 100% of people going through the training stimulus education are very passionate about sport and training themselves, which is why I think we recognize the value that we can give somebody when we give that back to them. We've all had, like you had your elbow, I had my neck and shoulder. When you go through that period where you're not able to do your favorite thing because of a frustrating injury, and you're doing everything you can, speaking to all the different specialists, and nothing seems to be working, I think that frustration, especially when it builds over years, can have a really significant toll on your day-to-day enjoyment of life. So
for sure. And that's why I probably empathize too deeply with people that are struggling, because it's so tough when you've got an injury and you can't move and do what you want to do. And it's so hard. So seeing people improve and help them, guide them on that journey is just, it's incredible. I've always had a sort of bit of a mantra, you could call it, of my career, which is anytime I feel a little bit uncertain of what I need to do, I just think, even from a business perspective, I just think just go back to serving the person in front of you to the best of your ability. And if I can continue just serving whoever is in front of me right there and then to the best of my ability, then everything will start to coming together. And it works.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so directly motivating, you know, like when you see the impact you're having, like, okay, maybe it's not the optimal thing to do from many different angles, but at least I know I've done something good for this person. And
Yeah.
that's why everyone gets into this field, right? They want to just help people in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And I wanted to ask you, one of the things I talk about often is this concept of a hybrid clinician, somebody who can treat and also train people. That client you're talking about was an online coaching client, so you obviously didn't do any osteopathy with them.
No.
How has your practice evolved since you've learned about movement mechanics? And you've obviously added online coaching. What else is going on for you?
I think the biggest thing is that I never have. I rarely have someone walk through the door and think, I don't know what to do here. And that's part of that is experience, just seeing thousands and thousands of people in the osteopathy clinic. But part of it is also learning, and I now know I can just fully assess someone's movement and understand what's moving well and what's not. And I can either help them or point them in the right direction of someone that can help them, depending on what the complaint is. And that's definitely a good place to be. I use little snippets of movement mechanics in every one of my assessments. And it's so good how you just instantly know, you see patterns and you understand, okay, I need to look at how someone's foot pronates, look at their hip stability, and just look at different parts of the movement. And you can just, even in a half an hour appointment, you can do a little bit of that, discuss exercise they can do at home, and then do some good osteopathic treatment. And that combination works so well from a clinical perspective of seeing people in a shorter form. So that's the sort of hybrid clinician approach I've taken. And that naturally, the way you treat attracts a certain demographic of person. So I see people that want more than just hands-on treatment. When they want more of a holistic view of how they're moving, that's naturally what will attract people to come and see me.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think you mentioned before that you've sort of changed the way that you work, like your working week structure looks slightly different.
Yeah, so obviously for a few years I worked 5 days a week with osteopathy, and I moved down to 4 days a week halfway through the mentorship. And then at the end, I think I moved down to 3 days a week. So now I'm doing 3 days a week in the clinic, and then I'm doing 2 days a week self-directed, seeing people in the gym online, and then coaching some classes in the gym as well. So within a year, within less than a year, starting mentorship, I've managed to do 3 days of osteopathy, 2 days of movement mechanics, gym-based coaching, and the balance suits me so much better. I love working as an osteopath in a clinic, but 5 days of seeing people all day is a lot, and you actually don't really see many osteopaths do that long term in their career because it's just a little bit too much. And for me, I'm enjoying my osteopathy so much more now because I have more space to also treat people from a different perspective. And certain cases in the osteopathy clinic, I think it would be so cool to work with you from a movement perspective. People don't even realize that's an option. And then we do that, and you can have this back and forth, really amazing dynamic where you can help people with complex injuries and really move forwards. And so my career is far more well-rounded now. And that feels really good to have different options. I think it's drilled into you as an osteopath that as an osteopath, your career option is you're earning when there's someone sat in front of you and you're helping them. And then if there's no one sat in front of you, you're not earning any money. And that's your career. And for a lot of people that is. And I think when I first graduated, I didn't even know there was an option of doing other type of work. And now I'm here. I couldn't even imagine going back to pre-mentorship, pre-learning about other ways of working, because I'm entirely more satisfied with my career and all elements of it now as well.
Yeah, I think being able to earn away from the treatment table is something that a lot of clinicians don't consider as a possibility with what they're taught through traditional methods. That when you combine coaching as one of your offerings, then it does give you that ability to work remotely, work from home, and actually supports your patients even better, because so much of their injury recovery journey isn't in the treatment room. It's stuff that they have to do on their own. So if you're able to provide them that side of the service as well, rather than having to refer them to a personal trainer or somebody else to take care of their training, you're offering them a more complete solution, which is, like we've spoken about before, very much how I see it as the way as it should be done, rather than, just trying to, well, I've had this experience myself where you're having to combine information and diagnoses from different people to make up your own mind as the patient, when you're not qualified to do any of it, and you're trying to piece it together from different sources. And if you can just go to one person and say, sort me out, make me better, and they can, that's, I think the way it should be.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you. I think a lot of people will get 3 quick exercises shown to them really quickly at the end of a consult, or sent a few through a physio software, a couple random exercises, shoulder pain, here's a few band exercises, a couple stretches, and let's hope that helps the shoulder. And we've done some good treatment and I might feel better, but whether it's going to get to the crux of a mechanical type of shoulder pain that you've done from long-term gym use or swimming or whatever it might be, it often for me just felt like it wasn't enough. So to be able to combine that really feels like I've got this well-rounded approach to my treatment now.
Totally. I think the analogy I like there is if you've got a tire or a wheel on your car that's out of alignment and it's wearing out really quickly, you can get a stronger tire, you can change the tire, but until you realign the wheel, it's going to keep wearing out faster than you want it to. And I think a lot of these quick PDF handoffs just are trying to strengthen the local tissues to make them a little bit more resilient. But if the compensation pattern that's leading to the overuse is never addressed, then you're just buying yourself a bit more time or some short-term relief before you start using it in the way that you want. So at doing the volume of training or sport that you want, or at the intensity you want, they always tend to come back. And I think those repetitive issues are where the movement mechanics stuff has to be incorporated, because the underlying pattern is the issue, not the local tissue itself.
It's the classic thing of the injured rotator cuff isn't the issue. That's the part that's suffered something else not working properly. And if you just strengthen the rotator cuff and just treat the rotator cuff, then it might feel better for a little bit, but you're not going to understand what is the actual reason the rotator cuff is doing too much and something else not enough. And you'll be in this little loop for quite a while unless you zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
That's exactly it. Yeah, spot on. And in terms of where you see your practice going, do you have a vision for the future of, you said you're very happy with your balance at the moment. It sounds like a really nice working week, to be honest. But where do you see yourself going in your next steps?
I love 50-50 clinical coaching. That works for me really well. I've done a few workshops in the gym I work at where we've done like a low back pain masterclass, and a shoulder pain masterclass. And I've really enjoyed teaching side of things as well. So I'm going to continue developing my skills, continue probably coaching groups of people as well, and continue learning because, yeah, I would say I feel like I have a unsatiable need to learn and develop more, which is a blessing and a curse. But I just want to keep developing, getting better, helping people with more complex injuries, and yeah, seeing results of people getting better that didn't think they would be able to. And the longer term, yeah, I would love to have, yeah, I don't know, at some point in my career, I love the idea of having a multidisciplinary gym, recovery center with treatment rooms and everything intertwined, and think it'd be really cool to have a space of just how I think people could thrive in their health. That's the long-term vision, probably 10 plus years down the line, but
it's good to have something to aim for. I
yeah.
think that's it. I think one of the things, you haven't got there yet in the alumni syllabus, but one of the assignments we have is on the philosophy of training, and it's an opinion, not a fact. But
Yeah.
I think as we learn more and evolve our thoughts on how the body should move and how we should train it, one of the things I want everyone to take away is an updated or upgraded view on what we should be doing with our human bodies, because there are so many opinions out there. If you just have a quick flick through fitness stuff on Instagram, you're going to be told about 100 different ways that you should be training or should be moving your body in somebody's opinion.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to that principle-based approach, what I would love is for people to have a think about it, because no two of us are exactly the same. So in our opinion, for our own bodies and for another individual's body, we need to be able to think through that thoroughly and say, okay, for you in your situation, this is the way I think you should be moving, considering where you are and where you want to go. And I think if you could have your own facility, that's like the ultimate expression of that, in that you're showing people, okay, this is my view on what we should be doing with our bodies, how we should train, how we should recover, how we should look after ourselves. If you have a cafe, how we should eat.
Yeah.
And having that all in one place. You see it a fair amount in Bali, where people are basically saying, this is my view. If you like it, join in. And I think that's a cool goal to have on the horizon.
For the people that the vision is aligned with, it'll be undeniable. Yeah. They say you can't be everyone's cup of tea, otherwise you'll be a mug.
That's very good. Yeah, the other one is, I'd rather be someone's shot of whiskey than everyone's cup of tea.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's actually a restaurant that just opened up here, and it's grass-fed steak, no seed oils, basically very carnivore friendly. The whole menu's got all the macros on it. And it was just absolutely, it's only open a week and it's been absolutely packed ever since it opened, full of all these health and fitness nuts, because they're like, yes, you understand how I want to eat. Your menu caters exactly to my preferences. And I thought that was just a great example of this in action, that someone's like, right, this is how I want to eat. No restaurant is currently serving this as well as they should. I'm just going to do a good job of it. And then all those like-minded people have flooded it. And I'm sure they're going to do very, very well.
Yeah, I absolutely love that vision of just knowing that I really care about this and I've done a fair bit of research into it, and there must be other people that have the same vision as me. And there usually is. If what you see is just undeniable in your head, I just think other people are going to see the exact same. And even when you said that to me, I was like, when you were just saying about the restaurant, I thought, I want to go there. Yeah. Where is it?
Yeah, next time you're here, I'll take you.
In Sunday?
No, sadly not. It's over in Peruranen. But worth the journey.
Worth the trip.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I think that's it, isn't it? Like you said, people will find you if what you say resonates and they understand, and especially with the movement stuff, once you feel it and you think, okay, what he's saying makes sense, and I can feel the difference in my body. Because I think a lot of people, me included, when I was younger and getting frustrated with all this stuff, you're doing what you're told, but every time it doesn't work, it sort of chips away at your faith and confidence in the traditional methods. You're doing your rotator cuff exercises exactly as prescribed. I think at one point I was doing them 3 times a day, doing these stretches and rotator cuff rehab, and you're just like, this clearly isn't working. Like, I can feel it in my body that it's not happier, and these don't get to the heart of the matter. And the opposite is also true. If you can give somebody a movement mechanics prescription which is dialed in, and they can suddenly feel a muscle that they haven't felt before, or they find it very challenging, and when they get better at it, their core symptoms start to alleviate, that, okay, there's some sense in this. And then it starts opening their eyes to alternative ways of training and moving the body, which obviously, in my biased opinion, are more aligned with our physiology.
Well, I totally agree with you in terms of, I think humans have lost their intuition quite a lot. And I think if you really listen to your body, you intuitively know if what you're feeding it, not just from food, but from everything, is really good and nourishing for you. When you do really good exercises that are designed for you, that you might not have done before, there's just this intuitive knowing that this is right for me. The same way when you have a delicious cooked meal that's really healthy and you're eating it and it just feels so good and your body is thanking you for it. Or if you've gone to the sauna and ice bath and you feel so good afterwards. Mm-hmm. I think people have lost that ability to really trust their body and whether something is just truly nourishing or actually not very aligned for them. And that's what I would encourage for all my patients and clients, is for them to understand and look inwards a little bit more, to understand if what they're doing is really serving them. And
love that. Super profound, but I couldn't agree more. I think that's a common symptom of the modern way of life, is that we're so distracted and flooded with inputs and information from all angles that we don't listen to the simplest intuitive information that we get from our own body. And some people push through pain and ignore all the red flags that could be popping up in all areas of life, not just training, because we're flooded with information and can't, our own internal monologue almost gets drowned out. Do you have any advice for people if they do feel like they're overwhelmed with information? How can they tune back into their own inner voice, or try to establish truth in something that they don't currently know enough about?
Something I've been putting in my life recently, as someone that takes on a lot and does a lot and is very busy, is I've been trying to learn how to create space through devotion. And what I mean by that is devoting myself to life and whatever I decide to do for what it is that I'm doing. So sometimes if I'm driving somewhere, I'm just driving and taking in my surroundings, and I'm not listening to a podcast or music. I'm just driving. Or if I'm eating dinner, I'm actually sat there appreciating my dinner. And if I'm working, I'm not working and then actually listening to a podcast and then occasionally checking my phone and scrolling. I'm just working. And if I'm lying on the sofa and scrolling, I'm also just doing that. And I'm devoting myself to it instead of thinking, oh, I'm feeling guilty because I'm not being more productive, or I should be doing something else. Or I'm walking to the seafront and I'm checking something on my phone and I'm not really taking my surroundings. And it's been one of the most incredibly regulating things for my nervous system, just to devote myself to whatever I'm doing. And it's the same way that if there's someone in front of me, I'm devoted to that person. And that creating space, particularly in just little snippets of the day, in little transitional parts of the day, we love to just do something to give us a little boost of stimulus, whether that's quickly checking Instagram, listening to something on YouTube, Spotify. And I'm guilty of that as well. But just allowing myself to have a little bit of space in different transitional parts of the day has just been incredible. So create space through devotion. That's what I would say.
That's powerful. Powerful. I think, yeah, people talk about monotasking and all the sort of stuff, but it it doesn't resonate or hit as hard as the word devotion. I think that's a really nice framing there, in that you're just giving it your absolute 100% presence, and that quietens a lot of the noise. Because if you're fully in it, then you're not diluting your focus, your attention. And to be one of those people that just quotes other people's knowledge and insight, someone was talking about the common thought that time is our most valuable asset. And I can't remember who it was now, so I can't credit them, but this guy was saying that attention is actually your most valuable asset, because that's what you use your time for. So if you're spreading your attention very thin, then you are squandering your most valuable asset. So be very intentional with what you give your attention, and give it 100%.
Absolutely. Because also, if you're not devoted to your work and you're kind of letting it slip, then when you're trying to have time off or time with your friends, family, trying to have fun, you're also not fully devoted to that. And on the weekend, when I'm at the beach kicking a football around with my friends, I want to be pretty devoted to that. I don't want to be thinking that I need to check in on some part of my business. I want to be there. And there's that murky middle ground of letting different parts of your life slip into one another, in terms of thinking about work when you're relaxing, thinking about relaxing when you're working, and not really letting it separate. And just having that separation has just made such a big difference to me. So.
Totally. Yeah. And I think there's so many thoughts coming up now as you say that. Just how many moments are we diluting our focus and attention? And social media and scrolling, I think, is so obviously not great for you, for almost any area of your life. But I think one of the reasons it's so addictive is that you can make a just about plausible argument that you're doing multiple different things. So you are getting a bit of entertainment, watching something funny, you are keeping up to date with your friends, you're educating yourself, you're learning, because that post was actually quite informative and made you think about things. So it's actually career development. And it's none of those things. It's actually watered down versions of all of them. But because there's just enough to keep you coming back, it's like that. Yeah, you get addicted because it's never quite enough to fully get that fix. You never feel like you're really staying up to date with your friends. You're not actually learning skills that you can use in your career. It's just...
Yeah, you can never fully get what you're after or what you think you're going to achieve.
Yeah.
I was going to ask for you, what do you use, for someone that runs an online business, what did you use to separate or to be disciplined with your time, with screen use, business, your personal Instagram, how it all merges together? What do you do to sort of stay disciplined, to keep that separate and have a bit of peace from it all?
Yeah, it's tough. So the struggles I find is when there are time sensitive things where it sounds so trivial, but say I'm expecting a delivery, I can't not be aware of my phone, because the delivery driver is going to call me at some point, and that can be so disruptive to a focused work block. So I do work like time blocking. So I usually have my mornings as my deep work, where I will do stuff that I can just be cracking on with, and I don't need communication. I try to set my days up like that. So pretty much all of my meetings will be after lunch, so that I have the headspace. Because once you get into the communication and responsive mode, I find it very difficult to then sit down and grind something out for 2 or 3 hours. So I have a big focused work block in the morning where I try not to open those conversational loops, and then I get all that stuff done in a dedicated batched period. So usually just after lunch, I'll do a big round of comms, and
Mm,
then that's when I'll do more interactive type tasks where I can be a
yeah.
bit more distracted and less focused. I also use an app called Opal, which basically restricts access to distracting apps on your phone between certain time periods. So it just adds a layer of friction. So if I'm trying to use it when I should be in a deep work block, then it will get in my way. And, I think it just reminds you that it's not what you should be doing at that moment in time.
I also use Opal, and that is worth its weight in gold. In terms of it puts a genuine block between you and just quickly picking up your phone and using distracting apps. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so for anyone not using that, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's a never-ending battle. It's like an arms race, right? Isn't where we're trying to improve our ability to not get distracted, and the whole world is trying to improve its ability to distract you. So
I know,
the hooks on content just get more and more outrageous, and
I know.
um, yeah, but
And the algorithms are smarter than we could ever comprehend. So I feel like they're probably winning the arms race. But at least people are aware of, yeah, aware
yeah,
of it.
yeah, exactly. All you can do is your best. So we'll see. But I had one more question I was going to ask you. Oh yeah, from
Yeah.
an education perspective, as I was talking through that, a lot of people get a lot of their information online and from social media. How have you pieced together your different skill sets? Because you've obviously learned osteopathy formally, you
Yeah.
did the mentorship remotely, and there are a million other sources of great information out there. What's your thought process for constructing your patchwork quilt of skills for your own business in that way?
For my business, from an educational perspective of me developing professionally or more well-rounded business as well.
Kind of both. I'm sort of what I'm trying to say is there are so many different sources of useful information.
Yeah.
How do you make it a structured learning journey so that it fits together in your service offering? Because you could learn so many different bits and bobs from different areas, but at the end of the day you need to present a joined up service to your clients
Mm,
where everything works together in harmony.
yeah.
So I'm always curious, when people have diverse skill sets, how do
Yeah.
they blend them together into one cohesive structure?
That's a really good question. What I would say is there's no perfect formula, and it's a matter of trial and error and learning to merge things, see what works, try things. And fundamentally, where do I want to have more understanding, or where do I want a smoother process? What do I want to know more of? And that's where I dedicate my effort of in terms of my gaps of knowledge. But for me, in terms of when I look back on it, it feels like such a mountain getting to the stage where you have an online offering of a business coaching model. And I remember at the start just feeling so overwhelmed by not knowing where to put my attention, and definitely getting a level of procrastination of trying to be perfect. So thinking, oh, I just need to have this more refined or have a better offering or understand this a little bit better before I do it. And it got to a stage where I just thought, let's get things moving. And my offer has changed a lot and continues to change depending on things I learn or develop more. And fundamentally, I have the goal, which is helping people to the best of my ability. And I do a lot of self reflection of where do I have blind spots and where could I improve my skills offering, whether that's from a really mechanical perspective of I want to learn more about shoulder, or whether that's the psychology of chronic pain and how I can help people remotely that are experiencing chronic pain, and what do I need to do to help that and therefore help them improve and get better. So yeah, that's the long-winded version, but pretty much the goal: help people. Below that, what do I need to do to continue serving this person? Where are the gaps in my knowledge? And
Mm.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. I think the key takeaway for me from that is doing that gap analysis. That's one of the phrases that I took from my
Mm,
corporate consulting stuff is you're always doing gap analyses. Basically, where do you want to be? Where are you today? And what are the gaps?
yeah.
And I think when you have that comparison side by side, it makes it very clear, like, okay, say for example, you identified a gap as your knowledge of movement mechanics. You're like, okay, I'm going to focus my attention on filling that gap to then have a
Yeah.
more complete service offering for what you want to do for your clients. And I think that's just a useful exercise in all areas of life, to be honest. Like, if you're a CrossFit athlete, you can do a gap analysis of like which aspects of your fitness do you not have up to scratch. Very cool.
Mm.
Thank you so much for your time, Felix. Have you got something else there?
No, no.
Okay. All right. We'll
Yeah.
leave it there. But yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the chat.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you? Where are you based? What are your links?
So yeah, I'm based in Australia on the Gold Coast. My name is Felix Adamson-Walter. My Instagram handle is Felix AW Coach, and I offer online coaching and in-person coaching for pain injuries. My tagline is from pain to performance, and I work in an osteopathy clinic here as well. So that's my offer.
Awesome. Thank you for your time today, and I'm sure we'll chat to you again in the near future. And there we have it, a great episode with Felix. Hope you guys took away plenty of useful takeaways. I think for me, the main one was that point on devotion. I think all of us would really benefit from monotasking a little bit more and giving things our full and undivided attention. If you would like to level up your movement mechanics knowledge like Felix, please check out thetrainingstimulus.com. We have a whole host of free education on our Skool community, and there's also where you can submit an application to join the mentorship if you want to go all in like Felix did. But as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments. But otherwise, we will see you on the next one.